Hello everyone, my name is Kirby G with Kirby G's Points and Miles, and I think it's time for me to break up with Capital One. Recently I made a video going over what will be in my wallet for Q3 of 2025. Capital One featured quite heavily in that video, and while that was the original plan, something to be aware of in the credit card game is that you always have to be willing to pivot to a new strategy when something better comes along. I just want to go over a brief history of both of the Capital One cards I've acquired and what I've used them for. So the Capital One Venture card, I originally got a 75,000 point sign-up bonus and a $250 travel credit to use in the Capital One travel portal. Unfortunately, the first time I applied for this card, even though I was pre-approved, I was denied. And that's because my name is Kirby Gibson and not Gibson Kirby. Please look over your applications before you hit submit. Even if it's the 15th credit card you've applied for, does not hurt to double check. I was planning a trip to Europe and I wanted that travel credit specifically to be used for some hotels in the Capital One travel portal. This travel credit actually paid for the entirety of our hotel in Rome as well as most of our hotel in Naples. So it was a great credit. I got some great value out of it. And I knew those 75,000 miles that I had acquired was going to be used for a business class flight down the future, but I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to use those miles yet. This Venture card just became my catch-all card whenever I had a weird category or anything that didn't fit my current setup. It got put on the Venture card and I did get a lot of spend. A lot of subscriptions that didn't fit, my internet bill, lots of things went through the Venture card, and I started to rack up a decent amount of miles. And back when I got this card in 2024, I was even able to use it to access some Plaza Premium lounges. So I definitely got my $95 worth the first year. The only thing to consider is that this is a $95 annual fee with no credits or any way to really offset it. Yeah, the Capital One offers is really nice, but am I going to get $95 of value from it every single year in an outsized way that makes a credit card worth it? I'm not sure. When I acquired the Capital One Saver card, I thought that the Capital One Duo was so much better than the Chase Trifecta and that I should put all my spend on my Capital One cards. And for a while, it worked out really well. I got a $200 sign-up bonus, 3x dining, 3x grocery, 3x Spotify, having 150,000 Capital One miles just the last month. I was really knocking it out of the park acquiring those miles. Got also a nice little referral bonus, had an extra 20,000 miles added onto there, and I was feeling great. The only issue is that, as you can see there, I now only have 242 miles left. And as you can see from my channel here, I have recently started a big mega redemption to Japan. And as you can see in this video here, the start of my biggest points redemption ever and getting insane value from Aeroplan on EVA Air. I booked business class flights on both Singapore Air and EVA Air to Japan and Taiwan respectively. Both of those flights cost me 75,000 Capital One miles, which I booked through Aeroplan. And as you can add up those numbers, that equals about 150,000 Capital One miles. So that kind of puts into perspective my situation a little bit. I got my Capital One miles, and I used them. So what do I do next? Well, let's first talk about some reasons why I should keep Capital One around. The Venture X, it's a card I've really wanted. In a previous video, I talked about how it's one of the 5 credit cards I most want in the future. But there's the questions of, will I get approved? I've gotten a lot of cards in a short period of time, and Capital One is a fickle bitch when it comes to approving credit cards. My odds are quite low. Maybe I could upgrade to it, but I have a MasterCard right now with my Venture card, and MasterCard to a Visa Infinite is not really an upgrade that Capital One allows you to do right now. Maybe they'll change that in the future, but right now I'm kind of stuck. But the Saver card is my best grocery card right now. I really do not have a 3x grocery card that I can use reliably, and is it really worth going down to a 2x card? No, there's some points either way. Also, Capital One offers can be very strong. I've had some great deals there, as well as on Capital One shopping as well. I think it kind of even rivals Amex offers, Rakuten. Capital One really can give you a ton of miles if you're looking. I also kind of enjoy the Capital One transfer partners. As you saw in those previous videos, Aeroplan works really well. And while Aeroplan is a transfer partner to some other big banks, Capital One has it too, and may as well use the transfer partners that I'm familiar with. overall, I do have reasons to keep my Capital One cards, locked, loaded, and keep spending on them. But is it my best option? There are also many reasons to abandon Capital One. Like I said, I've never been approved for the Venture X. Whenever I do the pre-approval tool, it's denied. I could just pull an Uncle Luke and risk it for the biscuit, as I've said many times before. But is it worth 3 hard pulls when I know I have a low shot of getting the card? I don't know. I'm going to have to weigh the pros and cons and really consider it. Before I do make a final decision, I probably should do my due diligence and at least apply. And as I said in some previous slides, I literally have 242 miles. If I cash that out, that's $2.42. Capital One cards, they're not going to earn you a ton of points by putting your spend on them. So outside of Capital One offers, when will I ever get to a point where the points I earn from my natural spend get me anything worthwhile when it comes to my points? It may be 5-6 years, and at that point, I should be putting spend on other cards. And finally, I spend most of the year doing sign-up bonuses. So why would I carry around a $95 annual fee card that I barely put any spend on? If I'm focusing on subs, why think about the Capital One ecosystem at all? Until they add more cards that earn Capital One Venture Miles, I'm not too sure I see them in my future. While I was making this video, I had a really interesting conversation in the Stack Your Points Discord with one of the moderators and one of the people part of that channel named RJ. She asked me, what are my goals? And as I was kind of going over what some of my thoughts were, I kind of realized that without context, some of my decisions, you may not understand them. I understand them because they're in my head and I know my justifications for the decisions I make. Without the backstory, you might just think I'm making an erratic decision here abandoning Capital One. So I really just want to go over what my travel and points and miles goals are. So 1, I want to travel internationally. I want to see the world while I can. 2nd, I want to visit my family more. And those flights home can be expensive, and so I may as well do it for points. If I am able to do 3 trips a year in cash, maybe I can make that 6 trips a year if 3 are on cash and 3 are on points. American Airlines has a direct flight from John Wayne Regional Airport to Chicago, and my family doesn't live too far from Chicago, and while they would prefer I fly into a closer airport, if I told them I was coming, they'd definitely pick me up there, and we'd have a great time. I also want to travel in style a little bit more. So what does that mean? I can afford to fly economy, but if I'm already going to spend that money on an economy flight, why don't I earn some points and travel business class? When I'm in Tokyo next year, I want to spend a night in one of the nicest hotels I can, and the very next night stay in a capsule hotel. I think that'd be kind of a fun little maybe YouTube video to make, staying at the $1 hotel versus a $10,000 hotel. I don't necessarily care how comfortable I am traveling. I just want to see as much as possible, but I'm starting to get to a point where if I can travel in a fancy way, why shouldn't I? So how am I going to meet these goals? Well, what are the points currencies I most care about? Number 1 is Bilt and Delta miles. I fly back home to Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a destination I want to fly to more often, and Delta miles are going to get me there. I have a decent amount of Delta miles right now, so I'm not looking to necessarily acquire a ton more of those. And that same goes for Bilt. Bilt is very flexible. I can use them for both Alaskan and Hyatt bookings. But right now, I do have a healthy amount of Bilt points as well, so while those are the point currencies I use the most, I don't necessarily need to acquire more of them right now. The next tier of points that I value are IHG and American Airline miles. IHG, I just had the business card welcome offer, got my 140,000 points. I have a total of about 220,000 points, which will give me a great 4-night stay in the Caribbean, hoping to book that sometime soon. But when it comes to American Airline miles, that's actually a brand new ecosystem that I haven't really used before. I have 0 American Airline miles. But as I said, I have a direct flight to Chicago from John Wayne Airport in Orange County, and that flight is on American. If I would like to fly home more often, or maybe pay for my parents to fly out to visit me, acquiring a lot of American Airline miles can make that number 2 goal of mine happen much easier. Then next is kind of where I originally had Capital One miles, but now that I've spent them all, maybe those get placed with Chase Ultimate Rewards points. They would work perfect with my Bilt points to book Hyatt hotels, and right now I have about 130,000 Chase points, so Maybe I should focus on topping that balance up even higher instead of focusing on a points currency that has 0 points right now. And at the bottom there is Hilton, still a points currency that I value and one I will need more of in the future, but that's not a top priority for me right now. And so as someone who has decently low spend, I want to maximize every point that I have. That doesn't necessarily mean a high cent per point value for every redemption. What that truly means is that when I acquire points, I have a use for them. There will definitely be some bonuses that come around that'll just be wow, that's a ton of points, I'm gonna just get it and think about it later kind of idea. That was kind of the Chase Sapphire preferred for me. 100,000 points, all right, I'm just gonna get it. I'll figure out how to use them later. Those kind of offers will come up and I'll go after them. But when I apply for the amount of cards that I am at the fairly high velocity that I'm acquiring them, they do have a purpose. And sometimes it is important to explain what that purpose is. So my first option is to just continue on with Capital One. Use my saver card as I have been, use my venture card for catch-all, and just really focus on Capital One offers to kind of offset that $95 annual fee. I earn the points I earn, and if changes happen in the future that make the Venture X easier to get or make it easier to upgrade to, awesome. That is a setup I can rock, and whatever points I earn, I can use. Maybe it's just 1 cent per point in the Travel Eraser on maybe some Viator bookings or Get Your Guide bookings. You know, having a card or having a setup dedicated to clean up those purchases, I'm not opposed to. My second option is just a complete full-on breakup with Capital One, throwing all of Capital One's belongings out the window, setting them on fire, and canceling my cards. I wouldn't fully cancel the saver card. That would just get sock drawered in case any future changes come up. But I definitely cancel the venture card and just use my Chase cards for my day-to-day spend, and then probably just acquire some type of grocery card. Maybe it's the Amex Gold card. Maybe it's a co-brand card that has a decent grocery category that I can get some outsized value on, and then just spend most of the year focusing on sign-up bonuses. And then my third and final option is just a partial breakup of Capital One. Maybe a little bit of friends with benefits action when it suits us. I would definitely downgrade my venture card. Maybe I don't fully cancel it, get a venture one. But again, like I said, it's a MasterCard. Is Capital One going to let me? Well, that involves a phone call. And then I would use my saver card basically just for grocery, get the 3% cash back, and just hoard up that cash back until Capital One introduces a new card, makes a change, or if I get enough cash back where I just cash it out at 1 cent per point into my Capital One checking account, that's fine. It really is just, it would have to be a wait and see play and maybe more of a long-term strategy. With Discover and Capital One merging, a lot of things could change in the future. My saver card could become a Discover card soon. Maybe the venture cards change to a Discover card. But that might take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. A lot of things in the credit card game take a long time. It may not be worth me setting up my strategy around the unknown. So overall, what will I choose? That's to be determined. With a heavily bias towards a partial or full breakup with Capital One. I have a couple months to decide whether or not I cancel the Capital One venture card or if I downgrade it, or maybe if I somehow upgrade it. Those decisions are things that will be coming in the near future, and when I do make a decision, you can definitely expect why I canceled the Capital One venture card video, or why not. I just want to thank everyone for all of the love you guys have shown on the videos the last couple of days. It's really honored to hit 100 views on 2 videos for the first time ever. Well, that's not a huge milestone by any means for the average YouTuber. It means a lot, and I'm just glad I get to share my nerdy hobbies with you. So again, I just want to thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.